Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of our virtual low vision fair. Each week over 7 weeks, speakers will present information on topics of importance to persons experiencing vision loss, their families, and the professionals who serve them. Today's presentation is on video magnifiers. The virtual low vision fair comes to you from the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired. Our mission is to promote the dignity and empowerment of the people of Wisconsin who are blind and visually impaired through legislative advocacy, vision services, and education. Today's speaker is Michelle Williams. She is a sales director of the North Central US for Vispero. And I also will be doing some speaking at the after Michelle. And I'm a vision rehab teacher here at the council.
Thank you, Jean. My name is Michelle Williams, and I come from a company called Vispero. And Vispero is a company that owns the top 3 video magnification companies that are out there that are named Enhanced Vision, Freedom Scientific, and Optelec. And there are others out there, so by no means are we the only ones out there, but we're going to show you a sampling of products today that have to do with video magnification. And we actually design and assemble everything that you're going to see today in Huntington Beach, California. And we welcome the feedback. Jean and I were just talking earlier, I was out in Florida where our other office is and talking to the engineers, and it's so important that we keep in touch with individuals like yourselves so that we're designing things that make sense for lifestyle and usage. And what makes video magnification different, and I like to talk about this a little bit because everybody's familiar with what I call the Sherlock Holmes magnifier. That's the handheld that does a great job when you are first needing that little bit of magnification. So we're kind of that assist that happens right after that. When you find that you need contrast, you may need some additional lighting, and basically a magnification range that is larger than what's on that handheld device. And what I mean by that is I think everybody is used to what a newspaper looks like, and you've got that really big headline, then you have a lot of smaller print in the columns, and then even smaller print underneath the photographs and pictures that are printed on the newspaper. Well, your handheld is one power. And so we're going to show you some devices today that have a whole range. They'll start at 1 times magnification, and some of these go all the way up to 70 times magnification, which is really exciting. And it'll have built-in lighting, and it'll have contrast, which is really huge. And I'll speak a little bit to that myself with my own story about my retinal detachment where I needed contrast to really see what I was working on and viewing, not only in my email, but also with the handouts that my company was giving to me. So with that, the first product I'm going to show is called the Ruby 7. So I'll try to be as descriptive as I can as well, because I know a lot of times on these Zoom trainings, it's hard to really see up close. We also have training videos. And then of course, more importantly, we have product at Wisconsin Council that you can see in person, which is the best way to really handle and learn about these devices. So the Ruby 7 is a 7-inch device, which has a reading stand, and I'm just going to block these lights a little bit. So it's something that sits on your desk. It's a 7-inch screen, and this will go all the way from 2 times magnification to 24 times magnification. And what makes this one different is it does have a pointable camera. So if you were to feel the top of this, it has a kind of a lined or ribbed type texture to the top that will give you more of a grasp on the camera, and you would turn it almost like a small wheel and point the camera at what you're viewing. And so it has a large 7-inch LCD screen. You don't have to have lighting on when you use it because it has its own built-in lighting. It's very lightweight. I have it in a contrast mode right now, which I'm going to unfreeze. And then I'm going to place it on some text behind me, which I'll do this myself. And then I'm going to freeze. There we go. I'm going to freeze the image so I can bring it up to the camera a little more effectively. Now I can actually use the buttons that are on the side to make this larger. And then I can use this small circular feeling wheel to pan across. So if I was looking at, for instance, a vitamin bottle or prescription, I could take a temporary snapshot of that important information and then make sure that I have the correct bottle. Because I know I have multiple vitamins, some look exactly the same. So I want to make sure that I'm taking one of the fish oil and maybe 2 of the vitamin E, and I'm doing it correctly. So something with this type of screen, a 7-inch, is what I call kind of a starter product, if you will. It's for someone who needs magnification while they're out in the field. If you're going to a doctor's office, you need to read a consent form. Maybe you're signing a restaurant slip, you know, because you've been out to eat and you need to see how much do I need to tip? What do I need to, where do I sign on this piece of paper? You can actually place this right on top of it and see that. So those are just some ideas and some places where people have used these products. You can imagine something that's this size fits really nicely into a purse or into a backpack or a briefcase. You can take it with you. It does come with a, and I'm just looking off to the side here, comes with a smaller case that it is padded that you can just slip it right into, zip it up, and that'll protect your screen for you so it does not get scratched. Now this is battery operated and it will last a full 4 hours on the battery, as well as you can use it plugged in, and there's a small indented plug-in area that you can feel tactily. So when we show you these products, we will teach you how to charge it, how to store it, and how to use the button functions that are on both sides. So that's the beauty of the Wisconsin Council, because they're right there showing you, and Jean's going to speak to whether this is something that will work for you or not after we talk about the products. All right, so that's kind of our portable category. We're starting out with a smaller screen, and we have another company with us called Optelec that came out with a device that I thought was just ingenious, because sometimes that size screen doesn't work for everybody, and you might need something that is a little larger. So I'm gonna hold this up to my camera. This is a 10-inch screen. It very much looks like a small tablet. Feels about the size of a 8.5 by 11 type book, about 1.5 inches thick. And this is a wonderful larger screen product that I am going to pull its stand out of the back. Here we go. And it's just kind of give you a little visual of that, which is really nice. It makes it very sturdy on a desk, so you don't have to hold this. You just set this on top of the materials. And I'm going to, because of the power of Zoom, sometimes these images might not look the greatest, but I do want to show you that there are large icons on the bottom that are, when I touch the screen, they show up. And really, they would train you at Wisconsin Council how to hold this, and your plus and your minus would be your left thumb and your right thumb right at the bottom. So very, very simple. Only 4 controls and an on-off button. But the reason this one is just so wonderful is that it has a very quick startup. I don't know if you noticed when I opened this up and you heard that click, it turned on and it showed me the magnifier was turned on. So it's very fast when it comes up. It has a distance camera, and it has a really cool feature, which I'm going to show you right now up close, where you pull out this arm. And to me, it looks like those old, take two, when they're filming a movie. And this comes out. And when you have it sitting on a desk here, you now can write underneath this with your pen. And you are not, trying to hang on to a magnifier at the same time and write underneath it with the other hand. I know I'm not coordinated enough to do that myself, and I'm sighted. So having this additional camera that comes out is just ingenious. And then, of course, the larger you make the magnification, the bigger the viewing area becomes. So you can get a full page on this when you want it to speak to you. So that's the other thing. I'm not going to steal the thunder of the screen reading event that's coming up with Jean for this series, but this particular device, when you set it on top of reading material and you have that arm out, you can press the little camera icon, and after about 10 seconds, it'll start reading to you. So it does have what's called OCR, or optical character recognition, which is just a fancy way for it takes a picture and then the voice will start reading to you. And you can pause it and play it. It's a great way to sort your mail. If your eyes fatigue real easily, if you have an eye condition where maybe you can sit at one of these larger devices or watch a television set for about 20 minutes or so, but you notice your eyes tire. So that basically allows you to still sort through your mail. You can hear the first couple of sentences. Like, for instance, mine would say, Loves Park electric bill. And then it would go through the address and information, and I know to keep that. So I'll put that in the keep pile. The other one might say, somebody wants money from me to buy clothing or something, like one of these catalogs. I'd go, okay, that gets thrown away because I have too many clothes. So you're able to do the everyday things of sorting through your mail. Writing checks is just beautiful with this 10-inch compact 10 by Optelec. And also bringing it in a restaurant is just amazing, because now you don't have to hang on to something. You can just place it under that camera, pull that camera out, and now you're signing your check. So it just makes those everyday things that we take for granted that much easier. So we do invite you to go to Wisconsin Council, as well as the websites, which would be optelec.com or freedomscientific.com or enhancedvision.com. And they have a whole catalog of different types of portable products. And they're all based on trying the controls so that the controls are good for you, for your handset, and tactily for you, and making sure that that's a product that's going to work for your lifestyle. All righty. So any questions so far, or
we do have
comments?
A question in the chat, Michelle, and then just to let you know, if you would like to demonstrate the OCR on the Compact 10, that's fine. If you'd like to demonstrate the writing. The question in the chat from Deborah was, what is the cost of the Ruby, and does insurance cover the cost?
Okay, no, those are great questions. So let me take them one at a time. And then, yes, I will definitely demonstrate the OCR in that product. And I have it set on the really, I think he just sounds wonderful. It's the English UK. So he says aluminium instead of aluminum. So he sounds really neat. But the Ruby 7 is $11.95, so $1,195. The Compact 10 with the speech is $15.95, and there is a version without the speech that we make that is $1,295. So you don't have to get it with the OCR. We try to do things kind of what I call a la carte. So if you want all the features, you can get it that way, or you can get just the magnifier. But I do want to mention the OCR is just wonderful, because if your eye condition progresses, for instance, or your eyes fatigue real easily, you are not dead in the water with that device. The Compact 10 has a feature on it that's called Miracast. And that means that if you have a smart TV that you've purchased within the last 2 or 3 years, there's a small icon on it that is a Miracast icon in most cases. So we'd have to check it out for you, of course. And when you press that, it will put the image of what's underneath your Compact 10 on your larger television set. So you can now use that as a magnifier with a bigger screen if you need larger letters and characters on that screen. You need a bigger viewing screen. So we're trying to get smarter as a company so that as people either have conditions where their eyes get tired, or, knock on wood, I certainly don't want anyone's eye conditions to get worse, but if that were to happen, you can still use this product. It is not something that you would have time to figure out if you wanted to get a larger screen, like we're going to show you after these 2 products here. So again, any feedback you can give to us is wonderful, but that is something that we worked with the TV companies to incorporate into some of our smaller handhelds, so that you can take that image. Say you take a temporary snapshot of your grandchild's face and you want to see it on a larger screen, you can do that. And then this Compact 10, before I show the OCR, you can save images and files to it and kind of use it. I'm going to date myself. I'm going to use the word Rolodex. You can use it as kind of your address book, if you will, and save things like the taxi company's phone numbers for when you're out, or Uber if you need to make that phone call, or your doctor's name and number. Really anything that's important information. Your emergency contacts, can save that to this device. Okay, it looks like we have another question here, Jean.
She also asked about insurance.
Oh, insurance. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Right now, there is not a lot of coverage for low vision products. There are a few insurance companies that will allow you to purchase what they call a vision rider, which most of the time I have found it only covers about 10% of one of these products, but that's very rare. I know that our government, Medicare and Medicaid, are doing a study right now to see if coverage in the future could occur. But again, those studies take a long time, and it's not necessarily guaranteed. The numbers would have to be, I think, a certain level. They have a certain criteria that they meet before they start putting those types of coverage into Medicare and Medicaid. So right now, that's the long answer for no, but there are some funding sources for people who qualify, such as low interest loans for seniors. There are Lions Clubs, which will do certain fundraising. And then I'm sure there's a lot more. There are certain programs that are within the state that you can see if you qualify for. So I'm not really an expert on what exactly is out there for Wisconsin, but I'm sure if you were to email either one of us, we could find out those sources and send you that information.
Okay. And then I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, Deborah.
Okay, hi. This has been great. This is really exciting to learn about this, and you're a very good presenter, and you're very clear.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And I wanted to ask if you could spell the names of the two companies and their websites so I could go online, maybe order a catalog.
Oh, absolutely. The first one is Enhanced Vision, and that's with an E. So it's ENHANCED, enhanced, and then the word vision.com. And then the other one's it's a little trickier. I used to mispronounce it all the time. Optelec. It's OPTELEC. And then the last one is Freedom. So FREEDOM, Scientific. So SCIENTIFIC, Scientific.
So
Yes,
the Optelec is optelec.org or .com?
.com. Yep.
.com, okay.
They're all .coms, but even if you just Google it, just put in Optelec, it will bring it up in the search.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And on the resource sheet that you will get for this week, I'll have all of those companies listed. And so you can link directly from them, from the resource sheet, to the products that Michelle is talking about.
Thank you, Jean. Good.
Yep. And these are all available through Wisconsin Council. So if you want specific product information, the websites are great, but definitely visit these guys and call their store. I mean, they are just a font of information. So.
Okay. Any other questions before Michelle does a demonstration of the reading and writing with the compact 10? To ask,
Right.
you just have to press your space bar.
Looks like the gentleman with Grace has a question.
Yes, I have retinal pigmentosis and I only have about 2% vision left. Is there anything that can assist me? Because I like to play the game of cribbage. Is there something that can assist me in seeing the cards to play when I pick them up?
Yes, you know, in that case, I highly recommend going into the store and to watch the segment on wearables that Jean, we were talking about that a little bit before we started. There's a category of products that are called wearables that fit over your glasses that will work sometimes for people that have severe vision loss. Other times, they're going to be able to show you some of the larger screens and how to situate some of these battery operated screens in front of you so that you can hold your hands underneath the camera and have the screen close to you. Because I know when I play cards, even some of my sighted friends, they're always doing this, trying to see what my cards are when I play rummy. So there are a couple of products that are wonderful for that. You might even be able to at the higher levels of magnification, but again, everybody's low vision is different. So trying these things hands-on at the store at Wisconsin Council is just invaluable. This has the pointable camera that Ruby 7 that we showed, and you can really have it very close to your body. But I'm also going to be showing a foldable device called the Merlin Mini that kind of has that capability as well. It's a little larger, so it would be if you needed more magnification because of your eye condition, you'd be able to hold your hands onto the XY table, which I will show you when I show that product. And do remind me in case I forget, because I yak a lot and I get sidetracked.
I think the other thing.
But that's a great question. Great question. A lot of card players out there. And those wearables are wonderful. So definitely keep with this program and watch the wearables segment that's going to be coming up.
The other thing
Okay.
maybe mentioned is the contrast that the Ruby Compact and the
Yes.
others do, because that may be helpful for someone with a small visual field to just enhance that contrast to really make it pop. So having a black background might also be an option that these could provide.
Yep, and that's where it's so important to see professionals like Jean, because sometimes, like she just mentioned, the eye conditions, you may not need as much magnification. It may be just contrast that you need, and then just a little bit of magnification. Because I know one of the bad habits that I think even us people from the companies ourselves, we just crank that magnification up because we're so proud of the range that these things do. But sometimes people don't need that. They just need the built-in contrast, or they just need the additional task lighting. So that's where those kind of specialized nuances can be identified, is with the professionals at the Wisconsin Council. So alrighty, well, I'm going to turn on my compact 10 here real quick, and here we go. And what I'm going to do, I kind of showed you the icons. I'll bring this a little closer that were at the bottom. I'm going to be pressing the one that looks like the camera. And when I automatically take this camera out, it is going to give me the ability to, here we go, put something underneath it here. And we just took a snapshot, and so I kind of did it accidentally. We're going to see how good it does, because it's a little bit blurry because I moved it. So
important safety precautions. For your safety, enter and tap the most Niania H140 TTM Acrobat HD Ultra. Please SL1/41 to 0.
there we go. So I'm just going to pause it. But you saw how quick that was, and I have it put into a contrast mode because for most people that have some sight left, they do want to track and maintain their word recognition when they're using a product like this. Other times you may just not look at the screen and you're just going to listen to the voice and have it read to you. But it was that quick, and you can put really anything underneath it that is an 8.5 by 11 sheet or even smaller. So when you put a book page underneath it, you're just going to touch the camera. It makes a shutter noise, much like a camera used to. It does that, and then you'll hear it beep a couple times to let you know it's doing something, and then it'll start reading. So it's quite fast. It is as accurate as the piece of paper or book is underneath it. So if you have a newspaper, and we all know how newspaper gets printed over and over again, it can be a little kind of feathered letter or number that you see. Sometimes, you know, it may catch E's and turn them into C's, but a way to affect that is you can turn on the contrast mode that Jean was talking about. It's wonderful to have that contrast. It makes things crisper so that your voice can read it a little better. And then the OCR is even more accurate. So it just takes a little practice for the machine sometimes, depending upon the materials you put underneath. If it's something really clear, like a book that's printed or a magazine that has a very clear print to it, it'll be fine. And that's with all OCR or talking machines, the optical character recognition. They're only as good as the materials that you put underneath them. And they'll go into more detail on that session about screen readers and OCR. So I hope that helped and was a pretty good demonstration. The next one that I want to go into, it's a brand new category that we have been asked for forever. People who need larger machines, but they're a snowbird, or they want to take it from the living room to the kitchen or to their desk or wherever they want to go. So I'm going to now just kind of turn off my smaller portables here. And I'm going to bring up a machine called the Merlin Mini. And the Merlin Mini is so portable that I can lift it with one hand. Here we go. And I'm just going to turn this on really quick. And I'm going to bring it a little closer so that we can see it. There we go. And now I'm going to put some, I'll put a map underneath it to start because I love maps and just how you can really see. There we go. And I apologize. Sometimes on Zoom, the image is not the best. So I apologize because the Zoom image is what we call a 720 image. So it has only half the information that your normal televisions and computer monitors have, which are 1080p. You'll hear a lot of computers, people talk like that. It just means it has twice as many lines of information going across the screen to make it a clearer image. And so this one right here is battery operated. This thing can go a full day in the office. It's like 7.5 hours. So we're not counting your lunch hour. You've got to take your lunch hour. And so you can have this plugged in or not. You can be someone who is shorter in stature and have your screen all the way down here. And when I do that, you're going to see this camera. There's a kind of a black square box if you feel behind the monitor, and you can turn that to point it at things. And that's what I meant about the having your, let me put it for distance here. Oh, sorry. There we go. There we go. I'm going to repoint my camera and bring it down here. Okay, so you could have your hands underneath this, have the camera pointed and have your screen down further and have the cards on this kind of XY table type thing. This table does not move necessarily. It's very stable. Some larger CCTVs that are out there have a table that moves, and they call that an XY table because they mean it moves forward and backward and left and right. And that's to help you pan with materials like larger newspapers, magazines, that if you have it in the higher levels of magnification, you're going to need to move your materials to read down the line to actually get the whole sentence or information that you need on the screen. This does have, of course, a brightness control, so you can control. I tend to turn mine down in here for Zoom because the lower you have it, the more color saturation you guys can see on the camera itself. It also has your color contrast modes, just like all your larger CCTVs do, but in more of a foldable functionality, which I think is really exciting. You can put this anywhere, and I'm going to turn it to its side so you guys can see exactly what this arm looks like. This right here, and I'm just going to move this up, can accommodate a really tall person. Like I'm very tall from the waist up, so I like to have it eye level. I had a retinal detachment that I really needed contrast with, and I wish we would have had this out when I had that because I probably would have used this a little more than I would have the smaller screen. But you are able to accommodate the stature of someone who is shorter, taller, and this has been made so that the distance between your countertops in your kitchen and the cupboards itself, it will fit underneath because that contractor space is about 26 inches. So this will fit right underneath that. So it's really kind of an exciting product that I'm going to now turn this off, but I'm going to show you how small this folds. This amazes me. This is like a 17-inch screen, what I consider a full-size CCTV. And there we go. And I'm just going to fold this over. And now I've got something that is about the size of a large binder that comes in this really beautiful padded briefcase looking bag. Comes with it, along with its of course electrical cord, and then a really large kind of screen cleaner cloth and everything. So it's something that you can take with you no matter where you are. You don't need electricity. So you could even, gosh, I don't know, there's so many situations I can think of. I have a gentleman who uses this in his garage, and he points the camera at his woodworking table just to make sure his settings are okay. And then he uses a pair of bioptic glasses for the actual work itself. But he uses this to situate his materials. So it's pretty exciting, all the different things that you can do with it. And that is a brand new category that was not out there before. And it came from feedback from people like yourselves going, gosh, I wish I could take a bigger magnification device with me on the road, or, you know, when I go on vacation to visit my son or my daughter, or to work. I want to take something to work, but I don't want to leave it there. I really don't. I want to take it with me home. So this is a new category that is very recent, and the price on the Merlin Mini 17-inch is $3,495. Does come in a 15-inch version, which is $29.95. So we try to do a couple different price points, a couple different sizes, and it comes with everything. So all the accessories come with it. All right, so just a short pause here. Any questions on the foldable Merlin Mini? I think we're good. Oh my gosh, you guys are great. And keep the questions coming if you have them. The next one I'm going to do, I think, is Jean's favorite. It's called the Acrobat. Oh yeah, I love the Acrobat. This is the one that my mom used for years. And I'm just going to turn my camera a little bit here so that we can get a better feel for the Acrobat itself. This one's a little tougher to bring closer, but we will certainly try. Okay, there we go. All righty. Okay, and I will take this out of the way. This one I love because it does come in about 3 different sizes. Comes in a 22-inch screen, a 24-inch screen, and the 27-inch screen, which I just absolutely love. I'm going to show you, it has a remote control that I'm putting right underneath here. And why that's important is a lot of times people will sit either further away from the screen, or they don't want to touch the camera itself because of the movement. Maybe the movement of the camera kind of makes them a little bit, you know, that motion sickness we talk about when cameras are kind of vibrating. It keeps that to a minimum. So you can either use the controls that are on the camera head itself, and you can feel them tactily. They're to the right. They have a raised plus, a raised minus, so that affects your magnification. It has a targeting feature, which I'll show you, and then the contrast mode button. So all of those same buttons are on your remote control as well, along with some other fancier features that, quite honestly, most of the time people don't use, like line markers. But that's something that the great staff at Wisconsin Council can go over when those features are appropriate. It's more for, I have a lot of students, a lot of younger low vision clientele that maybe need to only have a certain amount of information on the screen. So they use what's called windowing. And that way you can only show one sentence at a time on this camera underneath it. So those are kind of some specialized categories, if you will. But I'm just going to put my business card underneath here. I'm going to show you what contrast does. And when I hold this up, this is I just went to Myers. That's our grocery store here in Illinois. And boy, I got a coupon, which I love because they're just going to give me $2. But it is printed so light, I can barely see it. So I'm going to put that underneath here, underneath my camera. And even just the camera alone makes that look great. But let me now hit the mode button. And we're going to do, this is my favorite, enhanced negative, which has the darker background with the lighter print. And then I'll make it larger. And that tells me they're going to give me $2, which I love this. Because so many consumer products, if you've ever eaten some pasta Barilla, that box which is blue with the red lettering on, I hate that box. You can't read it, so I can't tell what it is. So having that contrast, you're able to now see what you're picking up. And so now you can see if you go out with this baby to a store and you put that contrast mode on, you're going to pick up the right pasta type that you were looking for. So it really does translate to everyday activities. This has a pointable camera to it. And why that's important is because as a low vision person, I can point that camera at myself as a mirror. And I don't have to have, I'm going to bring it back to color here. I don't have to have 3 different magnification strengths, like one for the plucking the eyebrows, one for just putting my lipstick on. I don't have to have all those different strengths of mirrors. I can point this at myself, which this will be scary. So I can point that at myself. And because of the lighting in here, I apologize. It's just because of the overhead, but I can make it, so that you can get very, very close. I can point it for distance out my window. And now I can see exactly who is in my driveway. Has the mailman picked up the mail and put the flag down on my mailbox? So there are wonderful safety issues that are addressed with this particular camera. You can see who's in your yard. You can see who is by your car out in your driveway. This is wonderful on a rolling table. So you can accessorize some of these devices to take them from room to room. Even though this does look like it's larger, I have a lot of folks who do put this on a smaller rolling table that's very steady. I know there are places like Office Max, Costco, that will have tables that are rated to hold up to 200, 250 pounds worth of stuff, and they're quite small with rollers at the bottom. So again, speak with your professional at Wisconsin Council. They can recommend some of these ways of modifying or using some of these devices in a different way that help with your lifestyle. And this one in particular, with that pointable camera, pointing it at yourself, being able to read, and now be able to look outdoors or even across the room to see what is the temperature, what's the thermostat set at. Ooh, I need to turn that down a little bit. You can point your camera and be in control of your environment, which is just, it's so exciting. So again, the Acrobat comes in 3 different sizes. This just happens to be the 27-inch, which is $3,095. Comes with the remote control. It also you can obtain a roller case, which is separate from it. So if I don't want to call it portable, but it is luggable. There's a handle on the back side of it that you can place it in its roller case and roll it from room to room, or roll it and place it in the trunk of your car and take it to your son's home or your daughter's home when you're when your driver gets there. So it really is a wonderful piece of camera technology called the Acrobat, and that's by Enhanced Vision. All right, any questions from anybody on these types of devices?
Well, I like to sew, or at least I used to. I find it frustrating now. I have gone into the Wisconsin store and gotten the special needles for my machine to help it thread better. But I find like I wear one of those lights that you can buy that have on your forehead so I can see better. But then like even to try and the thread breaks, so I need to rethread, and I'm trying to hold the magnifier, and so I have that light, but I'm holding a thread, and like, do you have anything that can work for sewing? Because I find the needles, it's a good idea, but I find that it jams up my machine more than the standard needles, or it breaks easier. I mean, I haven't found it to be real successful, and I'm not trying to cut down the product. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that, but then I basically have stopped sewing. But I'm like, oh, I missed that.
Oh, I sew. Gosh, Jean and I were just talking about this a few days ago because I had sent over some photographs. I'm a sewer too. I love to sew, and I used the Ruby 7 to thread the needle because it's small enough that I can have this open and set in front of the arm of the sewing machine, and I don't have to hang on to it because I can point that camera where I need it to go. And then I use my other two hands. I use that special metal threader thing that you put through, and then you put the thread through it and pull it. And Jean has a photograph in her part of the presentation that I gave her of me threading my sewing machine with the Ruby 7. So thank you for saying that. That is so perfect.
Oh, good. So you don't have to hold the Ruby 7.
No.
You get it on the stand or something so that you have
It's got a built-in one that just folds down. You'll hear it click and you just set it there. Now your hands are free to do all the threading and stuff that you and maneuvering of the material that you want.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you for the question. That's wonderful. That fits perfect with today.
Yeah, good.
Oh. Well, we're going to put at the end of this my contact information so that if you do have any specific questions on product that maybe I didn't get a chance to cover, or we covered it and maybe you want some more information on it, I can send that over to you. If there are any other products that you say you go onto the websites and you want to see them, just let Jean know, because I'm a ham. I'll do these all day long. And we'll put something together for you.
Thank you. This is exciting for me because I just kind of, it's easy to feel frustrated and like just give up on things, like for me. And so I'm like, wow, I can maybe get back to doing this again. Or
Absolutely.
thank you.
You are so welcome. And just remember, don't be hard on yourselves. This stuff is, I call it, it's like, I always use a baseball analogy of all things. It is like spring training. So you may be pitching for about 10 minutes and practicing that knuckleball, but it's going to take you a few weeks to get up to a half an hour, and then an hour, and then to pitch a whole game, which I call using your device for most of the time that you need it, whether it's all day or half a day. So take it in increments and follow the good words of these professionals at Wisconsin Council. They'll lead you in the right direction.
I think one of the nice things about Zoom, even though many of us get a little tired of Zoom, but it is an excellent way to get information out without people having to come into your home or you having to drive someplace. It's a great place to start to get information where you, so that you can begin to think about these things, because they are big investments, but they can be very, very useful.
Yep. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's something that, you know, once you're in the right direction with a professional from Wisconsin Council, you'll know that you have the right thing that's going to take you in that right direction. And because they have knowledge of everything that's out there and can lead you to the one or two devices that are going to address what you want to do personally, because we design on lifestyle. What do you want to do? What do you miss doing? You'll always hear that's the first question out of our mouths, because we know if we can address that, everything else will come.
Okay, I'm going to talk just briefly about selecting some of these devices. There's many, many different versions of these video magnifiers, and they all have certain things in common, that they have a camera, that camera is mounted somehow, the cameras zoom in and out, there's different size monitors or screens, they all have different viewing modes, brightness, color, and contrast, and then some sort of a platform that they're going to sit on. And so they come in different versions. So I'm just going to show you a few additional ones, configurations from what Michelle showed. And this is another version of one of those video magnifiers. This is one that does have an XY table on it, so that the table down below can move up and down and side to side as the person reads across a newspaper. This particular one also is controlled with a remote, which is what the lady has in her hands. And then this is another picture of the Acrobat. This is a picture of a device similar to the Merlin that she was showing, just another company's version of a fold-up CCTV. And then this is a little bit of a different type. This is called the Transformer. And this is one where there's a camera that's sitting on the table to the man's right in the picture. And it is facing downward onto the paper that's on the table. And then it is also Bluetooth to his laptop so that he can see what's on that paper on his laptop screen, where he can control and manage how the text looks. And then this is the Compact 10 that you saw, which is a portable. And then this is a even smaller portable that has just a 4.5-inch screen. This particular one is the Explore 5 from Humanware. So with all of these, they help you read, write, and appreciate detail on lots and lots of different things, different daily activities. And so one of the ways that people do use them is with hobbies and crafts. And I'm a beader, so I appreciated finding this picture because beading can be very, very small. And currently I do wear magnifying glasses while I bead, but this was just a nice picture showing that you can do even a craft like beading that involves really small objects using a video magnifier, that it can really bring things up so that it's easier for you to see. Pictures, family pictures, if you're sorting your pictures and putting them together to get them out to your family and friends, these are very nice ways for you to bring those faces up so that you can clearly identify who's in pictures, so that so that you can label them. Here's a sewing picture that Michelle shared with me. And this is one where you can see the ruby is sitting there on the table, hands-free. There's nobody's touching the ruby. The black bar across the top of it is where the camera is. And so that's been rolled so that the camera is facing the needle. And you can see in the picture, the needle threader coming through and then the thread going through the needle threader. And then this is a picture that I like because I actually have a lady who does this with her ruby. It sits on her dining room table and it points outside to a bird feeder. And she is an Audubon Society member and she loves, loves, loves birds. And this is a way that she can continue to watch her birds and feel like she's keeping connected to that activity. And so with the distance camera, she is able to see outdoors the different birds that are there. And she really enjoys doing that. So lots of hobbies and crafts, self-care. Michelle already showed how you can use these devices to help with makeup, grooming, nail clipping is another one. Money can read lots of different, very small things. So those slips that you get in the stores, just like the Myers coupon, very similar when you get receipts. And you might need to save those receipts or they want you to sign those receipts. And you can't see them, so you can put on the contrast and be able to see them. The device here is a ruby. It's not as big as the ruby that Michelle was showing. This is the smaller ruby that has about a 4.5-inch diagonal screen. And this one can either sit on a stand or you can pull it out so you can hold it, as shown in this picture, like a handheld magnifier. Meal preparation, again, easy for seeing ingredients when you're making your own. Easy to find and read those expiration dates on food in the refrigerator. Medication, even on a rounded surface like a medication bottle or canned goods in your pantry. These things do work. You might have to roll them a little because the light sometimes can get kind of sharp on them and you'll get a streak. But if you roll it, you end up being able to see the full label. And then, of course, for shopping, to be able to know what it is that you're picking up off the shelf. So just about any activity that requires reading, writing, or attention to detail, the video magnifier can make it easier for you to participate in that activity. It's just a matter of figuring out how best to set things up so that it can be useful for you. So a couple things to think about if you're thinking that one of these might be nice in your house. One is to know what kind of viewing you might want to do. Do you just need a camera that does near viewing, intermediate viewing, or distance viewing? Because that will depend on the product that you get and then the camera that is on that product. And of course, if you want more than one type of viewing, you want to look for a camera that can do more than one type. The one thing to keep in mind is how much magnification you need, particularly if you're looking at one of the more portable video magnifiers. So if you're looking at a desktop and you have a 24-inch screen, for example, the amount of magnification isn't going to be a big deal. But if you're looking at a 4.5-inch portable magnifier that might fit in your purse and you're going to be taking it out, those are not going to magnify a whole lot past usually about 12 power. There's some variation, but it's usually around 10 or 12 power that those smaller ones top out. So if your need for magnification is already at that level and you have a progressive disease like macular degeneration, then that smaller viewing window is probably not going to be your best choice because it's going to top out pretty fast as your eyes start to change. Okay. And then you also want to consider the size of the screen in relation to the tasks that you're doing. one of the nice things, and Michelle did mention this, is that a lot of these products can now be hooked up to a TV so that you can go from a small screen to your big screen TV through either a Bluetooth type of a connection, the Miracast that Michelle mentioned, or a cable, an HDMI cable, so that you can transfer what you're seeing on a smaller screen onto a bigger screen. And for some people, that gives them double use of a portable. So it's portable for going out, but then when you're at home, like the Ruby that Michelle showed, can, through an HDMI cable, be hooked up to a large screen TV. Okay, then another thing to consider is, how are you moving that? Are you moving the device itself, or are you moving the tasks that you want to do? And so sometimes that will make a difference in what type of tasks you want to use. The portable devices, because you are moving the devices, you want to make sure that the device weight is not a problem. And in general, that is not a problem unless you have something like arthritis and have rheumatoid arthritis in your hands. That can make those devices feel much heavier than they can for someone who would not have arthritis. You want to consider whether or not you want a device that sits on its own, or whether or not you have to hold it away from the surface. You want to consider how well it works on uneven surfaces. And this is like a book. So if you open a book, you have the crack in the book, and you have the curve of the pages, and you have the distance from the tabletop to the page itself. And some devices work better on those uneven surfaces than others. And then, of course, whether or not you want an XY table that you can put your task or your reading on, move it around, or whether or not you just want a flat surface and then you're going to move the target around. The last thing to consider is just a little bit about ergonomics. So you want to look at where your head is in relation to that screen or monitor on the table of your choosing. So when Michelle was talking about the Merlin, she mentioned that a tall person could use that, or a shorter person could use that. Not all of the devices, the desktop devices, give you that kind of flexibility. Many of them give you some flexibility, but not a whole lot. So then you want to make sure that the table it's on, the chair you're sitting in, and how you're looking at that screen is that your eyes are in about the top 1/3 of the screen. And that's a general rule. You as an individual may be different depending on your eye condition and if you have field cuts, but in general, you want your eyes in the top 1/3 of a monitor that you're using. You also want to make sure that if you are using your hands to move things around, you want to pay attention to where your hands and wrists are positioned so that you're not leaning them against the edge of a table and cutting off circulation or causing tingling in your fingers, things like that, particularly if you're going to be working at that position for a long time. You also want to consider in your home where you're going to place these. So even though 3 of the 4 that Michelle talked about are pretty portable, very portable, you want to make sure that a device like this, that you have access to it. You don't want to put it in a back bedroom, for example, where you have to get up and leave the kitchen or leave your office in order to go use it. That's going to be a device that's not going to be used as much as a device that's very accessible to you. And if most of the things that you do are in a chair, a lounge chair on the couch, you're going to really have to carefully think about which device is going to work best for you when you're in that position. And then, of course, the portability of these devices, that has improved dramatically, so that if you go to a cabin or you're a snowbird or just going for an extended visit and want to take your video magnifier with you, that it's definitely easy for you to take along. Just checking in with any questions that anybody might have or comments. And Deborah, it's okay to say if something doesn't work. That's always helpful for us to know. And I know that those machine needles that have the S channel in them, those can be very tricky. They do back out of that channel quite easily in my experience. So you were not off base in saying that it just jumbled up your bobbin thread is probably what was happening then, that it was getting caught underneath.
Thank you. I didn't know if using a different kind of thread would work. I get the really high quality thread,
Yeah.
and not the cheaper thread, just because it's better for the machine is what I was told. But I don't know if a different kind of thread would. Do you have any experience with that?
My main experience with those is that you really have to carefully match the needle to the weight of the fabric. And then you have kind of a fighting chance and it works much, much better on lighter weight fabrics than it does on medium to heavyweight fabrics. That's been my experience with those.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other comments or questions from anybody in the audience here? So Janice, it looks like you'd like to say something.
I'm in the beginning of my low vision. I mean, well, it's not really the beginning, it's just progressing.
Mhm.
And I'm still
Mhm.
computing. And I'm concerned about monitors that are big and that are easy to control. And I don't know if you're going to do that in another program or not.
Well,
So-
that's a very good segue because next week we are talking about computer software around magnification and screen reading.
Okay, so be sure to tune in.
Check in, yep. I do think, size of monitor, even for these video magnifiers, does matter. You don't, if you have really narrow field of view, you don't want a huge screen because then you end up having to scan all
Yeah.
around that screen. So you want the screen in front that fills your field of view, but not so much that you have to start moving your head around. And if you're pulling yourself away from your screen, you're really then diminishing some of the magnification that the video magnifier is doing for you. So you have to try and match that to what it is, like the type of reading that you're doing.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Michelle, you were saying that they could get a catalog by doing what?
Well, when they go to the website, there will be a contact us page. And if you fill that out, they will send you a catalog. And you can even, on the contact page, put your phone number, they'll call you and you can say, I just want a catalog. And they'll just do that. They'll just send you a catalog. So sometimes that's easier than filling out all those spaces. So you can do it whatever way works for you.
I do have a question. With the smaller Ruby, the handheld, so you can take it to the grocery store and read the labels. Does that also have a little stand on it so that I could use that on the sewing machine?
Not the smaller one. The smaller one doesn't have the pointable camera to it, though it does have what's called a reading stand so that when you set it on top of materials, you can read that way. But the only difference is it doesn't have that pointable camera.
Okay, thank you.
And Michelle was very complimentary toward the council. Just to let you all know, if you're not in our territory, the Office for the Blind and Visually Impaired Vision Rehab Specialists also would be able to give you wonderful service and training on any of the devices that we've talked about today. So my thanks to Michelle for sharing all this good information about video magnifiers and just a small portion of the Vispero product line. Her contact information and links to any resources will be sent later this week, along with the link to the archived presentation. And then next Tuesday, August 3rd, the topic is going to be on computer software for magnification and screen reading. And so we'll be primarily talking about Zoom Text Fusion and JAWS. So thanks to all of you for spending some time this morning with us. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.